past its expiry date. And again, this is a big conversation, but it's very, there's artificial support supporting that bubble. So the question is, how much longer can we go? And there's a lot of experts out there that say we're so overdue, we are so ready to burst. And I'm like the most optimistic person you'll ever meet. So I'm really
Jay
gentle
also
how
I also somebody is receiving the cash, like the traditional money, because like I said, for you to have that money, you have to invest. You have to get the traditional money to buy that coin. So somebody is getting that money. So
Yeah, well, you're not buying it. So that's something that I need to make sure that is clear in people's minds. It's an exchange of value.
okay.
You're taking money out of one currency, fiat,
Okay.
typically, and you can, for example, you could put it into gold, right, which is considered a store of value and goes up, typically, depending on where you are. Let's just say 10% on average per year, up and down, but over time. And then it's, it holds its value. It doesn't lose its purchasing power. So not if, but when the US dollar, completely, loses all of its purchasing power. And we're looking at about 99% of its purchasing power is already lost. When it loses its purchasing power, we don't have the ability to then store the value anywhere because the value's gone. So there is an urgency. So, cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin and Ethereum, are considered the new stores of value, right? We've heard of Bitcoin referred to as digital gold. And that's because now the asset class that it has proven itself to be, it's now, it's been legal tender in Japan since 2017. There's all sorts of articles you could read that show its market cap and what it's done as an asset class and what it continues to do, that gives big financial moguls the confidence to call it the new store of value. Now, arguable, definitely arguable. There's lots of people that would argue that point. But from what I've seen over time so far, I certainly think that it's a better option than keeping your hard-earned money under the mattress or in the bank. Most people don't know that there's something called a bail-in law where the bank can go in and actually take your money out of your account. This happened in Cyprus. And you'd be surprised how many countries the bail-in laws are in effect. And they're not going to, help the people. They're going to help the institutions. We saw that in 2008. And that's just the way the world goes, right? They take care of the institutions and keep them afloat as best they can. Maybe they have a sacrificial lamb like Lehman Brothers. Oh, you're, but generally everyone got bailed out.
That's that whole thing.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's such a big conversation. I'm trying to give enough depth that people can sink their teeth into it, but not too much that we go down massive rabbit holes. But
Fair enough.
Area,
Fair enough.
I can understand now a little bit what you just said. Like before I was confused, but you just, I like a click a little bit what you
Here's a good example is that looking at Bitcoin's history, and we'll just speak of Bitcoin because it's the king coin. It's the coin that everybody knows. It's kind of like, we don't call, Kleenex tissue paper. We call it Kleenex, right? But it's not Kleenex, that's the brand. Well, Bitcoin is the brand, but it's called cryptocurrency and there's lots of different coins. But most people who think about cryptocurrency, they think that Bitcoin is cryptocurrency. Bitcoin's now at a point where it's on, we're using it across the board. And I could give multiple examples, and certainly I can come back on again and we can do that prove its value, its use case, and how it's a storage of value. And remember, we're not buying it, we're just exchanging one fiat paper currency for another type. So we're just moving the value into another asset. Now, if that asset goes down and we want to pull it out, then we've lost money. That is true. But typically most people who are getting in and they're new, they're holding. And so if it goes down a little bit, they wait, it retraces, and then they wait for it to go back up. And if they're playing the long game, they would pull it out, when it goes back up, if they pull it out at all. If they're using it as a store of value, they're holding their hard-earned cash in an asset that they pretty much have bet on that it's going to go the distance. And most people understanding supply and demand with the Bitcoin 21 million and the project that is Ethereum. Well, you can't call it a project anymore. It's no longer a teenager. it's now a full-blown, behemoth. There's over 1,000 coins and developers on that blockchain, and it's like the 800-pound gorilla. It just keeps expanding. So if you're going to bet on a horse, most people are not betting on the fiat horse. They know that ship has sailed and it's sinking, right? Yeah.
So
Wow.
Tendai wants to know who regulates this. Who regulates this currency to make sure it's fair?
Where is Tendai from?
Texas.
Texas. Okay. So the United States is one of the toughest. The SEC, they don't like it. They don't like it one little bit.
Like
Okay.
I bet not, right?
They don't like it.
Even a little.
Well, the banks don't like it. We're talking about some serious direct competition. It's changing now, but it wasn't that long ago that you would, and there's a lot of banks that still won't allow you to buy cryptocurrency. And you know what, pros and cons. Some of the banks do it because they're like, ooh, if we let people start to get into cryptocurrency, we're going to lose them, number one. But some of them also know that 99% of the stuff out there are scams. Let's not be mistaken here. This is not, fairy tales and unicorns, this whole cryptocurrency thing. 99% of the stuff out there is a scam. So people should be weary and people should be leery to get involved. And if you hear all these horror stories, it's because they're true. It's changing. And so the desire for regulation is there for a lot of people. They want that drive towards regulation. It's inevitable. It's the evolution of cryptocurrency. However, having said that, this is where I can bring up a key differentiator and something that everyone getting involved needs to know. Yeah, Angeline, exactly. So we've got centralized cryptocurrencies. For example, let's talk about, I'm always careful about what I talk to when I start talking about this stuff. You do have to be a little bit diplomatic, but China's just come out with a central bank digital currency, right? And this is very centralized. And there's a term called surveillance capitalism. And this is something we all have to be very careful with. And Angeline, absolutely, you have to step into the space with people who know. This is key. Especially if you're a trusting person, because people may seem really, well-meaning. And, I talked earlier about watching your back. This is why you get involved with people who, get to know them over time, know what their intentions are, know their track history, what are they doing. But centralized situations, even Facebook, some of you may have heard of the Libra coin. It was it was a big news story. That's very centralized. Pros and cons, it's kind of, you could consider it a token, like you'd use in a game. Fun, yay. Those of us who are purists, we would say no bueno. We would say no bueno. You really, ultimately, the beauty of cryptocurrency is that it's decentralized. True, real cryptocurrency is fully decentralized, which means that there is no bank, boss, or government in between you and what you're creating and what you're doing. And this is true empowerment. This is huge. So the surveillance capitalism that's happening, and the data mining, and the lack of privacy, and it's shocking when you start to understand the amount of freedom that we're giving up, that is our information. Like I said,
absolutely,
going back to our data and its value. It's the number one commodity in the world.
Absolutely.
Now, yeah, the financial aspect of our lives, if all of a sudden we can be tracked and traced, and every little penny that we spend can be seen by the government or the bank, or already with the bank, that's the case. What we're talking about with cryptocurrency is autonomy and privacy, right? Equity. It's peer-to-peer, and it's really nobody else's business what you're sending to, Gloria across the world, or down to Texas. And so it's really important to understand that as soon as you take your cryptocurrency and you put it on a platform or put it into a project that's centralized, you risk them running off with your crypto. And we see this happening all the time. People don't realize. And sometimes we put our crypto in centralized projects, but it's more like going to the casino. High risk, high yield, but high risk of them running off with your crypto. But we do that to play to have fun because you can earn a lot. They're high yields, but you have to know the market. And there's a ton of new projects popping up right now that are high risk, high yield. And if you guys go and look at our YouTube, we feature a lot of videos warning you of which ones will do that. So if you're going to play them, just know you're at the casino. And if you stay long enough, you're going to leave with nothing. So it's just knowing that, right? So we really steer new people towards fully decentralized projects where if you're, say generating using an Ethereum generator as an example, we know people who are doing this on smart contract. It goes straight into their wallet. Nobody else owns their crypto or holds their crypto. So smart, essential, in my opinion. And we know people who've, massively grown their Ethereum to 800 Ethereum in 3 months. Mind-boggling, on a smart contract. So that begs the question, what's a smart contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many questions because I've been just listening so intently that I've been forming so many questions, but I'm going to hold on to mine. And so John missed the beginning. And since I love John so much, I'm going to ask you to repeat your tip on how to get started.
Okay. Hi, John. Nice to
I'm going
see
to
you,
guess
brother.
join Thrive Tribes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not everyone's going to resonate with our movement, and I always say, find your tribe. For us, we're a change maker movement. So our crypto tribe is one of the 12 sectors or 12 tribes that we, drive change through. We're solutionaries, we like to call ourselves. And so, of course, the crypto actually is the economy. It's the driver of the movement. So coming in and coming into our community, of course, if people resonate with me or with us and our team and all the amazing people we attract, my God, we've got these amazing people. Then come join us. I'm sure Kia will I can get you some links in the show notes where people can go and they can plug in, because really it's like everything. It's like what you guys do. It's what you do with London Real, Kia. If people are going to get out of things what they put in, and if they educate themselves and they learn the foundations. Okay. So for example, the first place John, knowing you and knowing what a lifelong learner you are with a growth mindset, the first thing I would tell you to do is I'd tell you, go see my friend, Sean Maloney,